Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Club, a place investors go to learn tips, tricks, and stories from other investors in the field. Today we have a special guest with us, so buckle up, grab your pen and paper, and enjoy the ride. And we are live. Al, thank you for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing phenomenal.
Awesome. Where are you calling from?
I'm from Denver.
You're from Denver.
Yep.
Denver a la London, correct?
Correct. I was born and raised in London until I was 13. And then my family bought a business out here in Denver. So we moved to Denver when I was 13.
Wow. That's cool. That's cool.
Yep.
I'm sure that that'll play into the story at some point. But to get us started, why don't you just tell the listeners, everybody watching, who you are, where you're from, and how you got into real estate in the first place.
Yeah, got it. So Philip Neri out of Denver, Colorado. Post-college, I worked for the government for 11 years. Did a lot of stuff in special operations, juvenile corrections, ran a juvenile prison for the state of Colorado for a number of years. Make a long story short, in 2004, I decided to just kind of take a leap of faith in regards to the world of entrepreneurship, and was like, I want to open up a gym, and that would be, a boxing martial arts gym. My father was like, let's get into the rental car business. So we had an Avis. A guy that would work on their rentals was like, we should start flipping houses. I was like, what does that mean? He was like, you buy them, I'll do the work, and we'll split the profit. So that's actually how I got started in real estate. No training, no education, no anything. Just
a friend of a friend.
I used a little bit of common sense, and I said, if I buy something for this price and it costs us this much to remodel it, and we can sell it for this price, and then it costs us a little bit to sell it, there's a spread.
That makes sense.
And that's what I did.
That seems to be a common theme with people in real estate. I feel like it's they know somebody somehow, they just kind of like ran into real estate, and then they just kept going, and it worked.
Yeah. So I built up from that, started buying some properties out of state. My second city was Detroit, where everybody was like, you are absolutely crazy, man. Isn't that place like falling apart, and, such high unemployment and things. So we bought a lot of stuff in the inner city. We had a lot of success out there, and then just continue to expand on that. I'm on my 20th city right now, which is a city in Georgia. I've done a few cities in Georgia. Became a realtor in 2007, and everybody thinks I became a realtor so I could find my own deals, list my own deals. That wasn't the case. I just had a very good friend of mine that was a realtor, and he was very busy, and he was like, hey, man, you've got a real estate brain. Do you want to get a license and help? And so then it was, okay, how do we become successful realtors plus being successful investors? And so now I run, a very successful team here in Denver. And then in 2010, I had the luxury of being asked by all the TV shows to speak on their seminar circuit. So all the big boy TV shows. So I traveled for 6 years all over the US and Canada, basically teaching every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, teaching people about how to get started in real estate investing. So I wasn't the guy that did the big sales presentation and wowed people with real estate and, they talk about their pie in the sky deals kind of thing. That wasn't me. I was the guy, after people paid for the education, I showed up and said, okay, now how do we actually build this business in 3 days so you guys can start something new, whether it's a side hustle or it's whatever your goals are. But how do we actually get going in real estate? So I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed the teaching. So now I do obviously individual coaching, group coaching. I have a performance coaching business that's way bigger than real estate. It's mindset, life, business. I wrote a book about balancing life, the formula for a balanced life. I'm a PhD student in performance psychology. So real estate will always be one heavy vehicle in my world. As a realtor, as an investor, running a team. And then I see myself also running just as I get the PhD, really increasing the performance coaching aspect of my business as well.
Wow, that's great. So you have quite a breadth of experience. I'll be excited to go into it. So you started off, you ran into somebody, just friend of a friend who got you into real estate. Since then, you've kind of taken off. Where are you like right now? I mean, you just touched on it a second ago. You're doing coaching, performance coaching. and you're still in real estate. You're a broker and you do flips. To kind of take us, what is it you do? What areas do you focus on? How's your investment side? How does that pan out right now?
Yep. So, we've gone through the gamut where we've had tons of rentals, sold the rentals, tons of flips, sold the flips, made money, lost money, took on more risks than I could handle, because it was just, you're young, you're hungry, you're like, and then you're like, oh my God, this has 90,000 moving parts that I never thought about or nobody ever told me,
Yeah.
So, I'm definitely not that guy that, says everything's worked out. There's definitely plenty of sleepless nights along the journey. Right now I'm flipping in two markets. Denver, we just got back into Denver this year. For the last couple of years, it was tough to get a deal. I'm not saying guys weren't flipping houses and wholesalers weren't wholesaling houses. They just didn't meet our numbers, and I don't feel like we're per se the greedy flippers. But where we struggle is we don't really like to do a cheap remodel. So a lot of wholesalers, the ARV can be wrong, the rehab can be wrong. And then what happens is guys buy the deals and then they realize, wow, this wasn't a 30 grand remodel. This was a 50 grand remodel. So what are the corners I can cut? And as a realtor, unfortunately, I see that end product because, again, I have regular buyers. So as I'm out and about, my team's out and about, we saw the quality of some of the remodels. It was like, this is atrocious, and I'm talking, things that, and, they're not per se health and safety, but, like they wouldn't paint doors. They wouldn't change hinges.
Oh, wow.
They wouldn't paint trim. They wouldn't put new trim. It's just a shit-looking remodel. Does that make sense? And so we just won't do that. So at the beginning of this year, we just kind of stumbled across a few deals, and it was like, okay, we could flip these. And that has definitely built up the momentum for us. I think I may have just completed the fastest flip I've ever created, ever done. This Wednesday, as in tomorrow, is 2 weeks of ownership on the house.
Wow.
And this is a retail fix and flip. And it's being staged today.
Wow. How'd you do that one?
We
got in there and did some work.
I tell people, man, I have guys tripping over each other, and and we just got in and out, even poured new concrete, and we just got a dumpster was at the house for a day. That's how fast we moved. And then, we just moved really, really quickly on it. So, so that's it. Flipping in one other out-of-state market in Georgia, they move a little slower than I do in Denver. And so it's a little bit, it's been a little bit mentally challenging at times because, as you can tell, I mean, typically start to finish, we would flip a house in 30 days. Like that's my plan is day we buy it, 30 days it's back on the market. And, sometimes you run into complications with, the city's like, you need to get permits. And then coronavirus happens and they don't work for 3 weeks. And then they're mad at you because you didn't get a permit. So they're like, we're going to make your life miserable, right? And it's just like, so I just had one go under contract yesterday that fell into that identical scenario. And it's all good because now it's a fully permitted house done to their standards, which we would have done anyway, but they've validated it. Does that make sense? Yep. But yeah, in the other markets, and that's where I think people are more intrigued by my investing is they're like, how in the hell did you do this, 2,000 miles away from Denver, and you've done it in so many cities. And I tell people, man, it's not easy. And you absolutely have to have people that you trust.
I am actually very interested in this. So my partners and I were completing a wholesale out in South Carolina right now. Originally, we were going to buy it, but just Corona hit, and we were like, all right, let's just wholesale it. It's actually a mobile home park, so it's not an actual flip. But still, dealing in different markets, it's difficult. And so, kind of take us to how do you guys operationalize the acquisition, the finding the property, dispositioning the property, every step along the way. How do you guys actually deal with out of state investment?
Yep.
Before we continue on with today's guest, I want to tell you guys about a community I'm launching on School to help investors like yourself grow your own portfolio. In this community, you'll get access to all the docs I use, all the systems I've built, everything I've used to grow my own portfolio, as well as instructions and guidance on how to get out there and find great deals, how to finance those deals, and then how to manage them for great returns. Since we're just launching it, the price will be set at a measly $20 per month, and whatever price you join at is the price you'll have for life. We will be increasing the price as the group grows, so if you're at all interested in growing your portfolio along other investors, now is the time to join. I will put the link somewhere in the bio or on our podcast website at therealestateinvestingclub.com, so if you are interested, head on over there. With that said, let's get back to the podcast.
So few different things, a lot of moving parts in the bicycle wheel per se, in all those spokes. Step one is I just start cold calling a ton of realtors. And I think it helps because I am one. Mm-hmm. So when I introduce myself as an agent and kind of share my background. They can look me up. They can validate I'm an agent. Does that make sense? So I think what it does is it kind of, there's a fine line there with, oh, I'm a cash buyer. And the agent's like, oh, shit. Right? They're like, oh, God, I've heard this a million times. Like, did you just come out of a seminar? Right? Like, I mean, it's all that stuff, right? So I think I can substantiate myself being an agent. I mean, they can see I'm with one of the big boy brokerages. They can see I run a big team, a producing team. Does that make sense? So I think I can have
credibility.
Different conversation with an agent, correct, with the credibility. So then I start saying, hey, like, this is what I'm looking for. And I understand this might not be your wheelhouse, nor might you want to do the work. Like, it kind of sucks, right? You're going to run around town and look at nasty ass properties and make low offers for me. I get it. That might not be what you want to do. But what you might know of is some young, hungry agent that just wants to grind. And they're like, I'll do it. I have nothing but time. And you know what? I'm going to get experience. I'm going to see neighborhoods. I'm going to see houses. I'm going to understand floor plans. And you know what? I'm going to make this work for me. And I don't have another client. So, how's this work? So sometimes, I'll target, agents online that per se look younger. I'll read their bios. They've only been in real estate for a year. And people are like, that's crazy. And I'm like, look, I have the knowledge. I don't need them to have the knowledge. I just need them to have the work ethic. I have the knowledge. I can teach them what I want. I can teach them how to pull comps. I can teach them. I mean, it's not hard to FaceTime me right now. They don't got to send me 50 pictures. Like, just call me on WhatsApp or FaceTime and we can walk through the house together, right? I can show them how I run my numbers. Because I think that's very important too is, investors, like, they don't want to share their formula with the real estate agent. It's like, dude, your formula is not a secret. Like, we all use the same formula.
It's not a secret, man. It's
right. Like, if you educate them on the formula, they kind of understand why your offer is low, right? They're like, oh, got it. Wow. And then obviously the perk to the realtor is, hey, if you're the one that helps me find the deal, you're the listing agent at full commission. That's the other thing. A lot of these investors are like, well, you're going to give me a discount? Like, come on, man, let people earn their money, right? They hustled really hard. They may have made 100 offers, 50 offers to get your one deal. Let them keep the full 3% on the list side. And then obviously you got a buyer's agent, right? Yep. So it's just like when you understand their role and I think respect their role, it tends to do that. So that's one role. Then what we try to do is we try to get on every buyer's list from every wholesaler in the city. Mm-hmm. And that's through Facebook, Craigslist. One of my business partners, like, that's all he'll do is I'll attack the realtor side of the business. He'll attack the Facebook wholesaler side of the business. And he'll join every investor group in the city, he'll respond to every property. Does that make sense? Just to create dialogue, communication. And then from there, obviously you start to get some deals, right? Wholesalers, once they put you on the buyer's list, I mean, that's pretty easy. You're just going to get the email distribution. Realtors, sometimes, you gotta prod because they get frustrated because, let's say somebody is asking 90 grand for a property and you want to offer 40 and they're like, well, there's no way they're going to take it. They've already rejected 88. Okay, got it. Cool. And they just get tired of hearing that, correct? So sometimes you got to start that wind that wheel back up again and jump on someone else, kind of go through there. There's many times too, like, if a realtor, we know they've beat the streets, man, we'll send them a little bit of money, a gas card, like just something out of common courtesy to be like, you know what, this person is really, really trying. Right. And it's not their fault that we just can't quite put something together yet, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Then just through networking, sometimes, we'll find a young, hungry person in the city that kind of posts on that Facebook group, like, hey, want to get started in real estate investing. Does anybody suggest how I get started? Courses, Bigger Pockets, YouTube, whatever. And we'll reach out to that person and say, hey, how does this sound? We need a boots on the ground to go look at houses for us, drive by neighborhoods, or whatever the case is. The exchange is you're obviously going to learn. And if we close a deal, we'll give you, a little bit of money for kind of being the boots on the ground person. It kind of depends on what their involvement is. Does that make sense? But we just kind of build them into the deal. We won't prepay or anything like that, because then I think we're sending the wrong expectation of how the real estate industry works. We all know when you've been in the business, nobody gets paid until a house closes. So it's kind of just setting that standard for like, hey, like we can all work together. The other thing, we'll pull lists, we'll do the text blast, skip trace, we'll do the text blast, we'll, try to gauge some activity that way and that's obviously more the acquisition, finding sellers and things of that nature. We can pull the cash buyers to, contact them. So it's a multitude of different stuff just to start conversating. Okay. Right. Then through enough conversations, you start, per se, some apples drop, correct? And now these are people, now you just fine tune a little bit, that now we start, okay, can we look at properties? Can we get going? Can we do this? Can we do this? And then obviously, the offer game starts, right? In between all that, you got to figure out, well, what the hell am I going to do? Like, am I wholesaling? Are we keeping it as rentals? Am I flipping it? Am I looking for seller financing? So obviously, as you start seeing the inventory and you start seeing where the opportunity lies, then we tend to sway on which direction we're kind of going. And obviously, if there's remodel involved, then you got the contractor deal. Yep. Who in the world am I going to hire to remodel this house here?
That's the thing that scares us the most, is finding a good contractor. Yeah. Like Denver, out of state, it's hard enough in state. Finding one out of state.
Correct. So in Denver, obviously, I have all my own subs, right? Everybody that does everything, I control, schedule, pay. I kind of act like the GC, and I'm not a contractor, but just from flipping so long, you learn enough. Out of state, that can tend to be a little bit more difficult. So that's when you're relying on, other people's connections, right? The realtor. I mean, anybody you're meeting, if they go to the investor club, and you got to start vetting people out, which is, it can be extremely difficult. One of the little tactics I've used before that it's worked quite well is I've posted like a contractor open house. So I'll say, hey, we're set to close on this property next Tuesday. We've got a contractor's walkthrough this Thursday from 9 to 11. And, I'll then, that boots on the ground person, that realtor, I'll have somebody just go stand there for 2 hours. And I would already in my mind, I've got an idea of what I want to do per se, correct? Yeah. House. And then what I'll do is I'll have contractors respond, and I'll say, well, please respond with some, more recent photos of your finished work. Well, everybody knows now, especially with like phones, like people are taking pictures, they're taking a video of the house. So, I'll get to a point where I can figure out when the date was. Because some guys are showing pictures from like 2009. You're like, well, what have you been doing for the last 11
since then?
Right. Like, I want to see pictures from like a week ago or a month ago or 3 months ago. Right. So I'll kind of look through that. I won't ever give the address. What I do is in my post, I'll put the elementary school, which in everybody's head gives somewhat of an idea of where the house is at, so they can figure out geographically, does it work in what part of town they like to work in, things of that nature. Then when they kind of respond back and I look through the pictures, I'll say, okay, cool. Well, I'd love to have you come out Thursday morning. My business partner, Courtney, is going to be there. For example, that's a realtor in Georgia we have. Please get there. She's got kind of a list of things that I would, definitely like to get done. Feel free to call me. I'll be on standby. if you have any questions while you're there, I'll be available. And I make myself available virtually. And then basically I'll give the address and people, they'll show up and, people will start bidding the job and, things of that nature. And I've had a lot of success doing that. Again, it's a little bit
that's really unique, and it's a good idea because when I've done it, I've scheduled individual walkthroughs with contractors, but it's a time suck. So you kind of take that open house idea that realtors use for buyers. You batch the work and you get it all done at once. And some
guys get, they're like, oh, this is bullshit. I didn't know 5 other guys are going to be here. It's like, all right, man, it's your choice to give me a bid or you can take off.
Yeah.
I don't, why would you think that I was going to hire you? Like, come on, man.
Yeah. You're establishing the precedent that, yes, you are bidding against other contractors. I do want your best bid.
Right. And then I've learned, there's going to be a guy that's super high. There's going to be a guy that's super low. Never go with the guy that's super low because change orders are coming. Unforeseens are coming. Oh, he didn't know that you wanted him to check all the windows. Well, idiot. Of course I want you to check all the windows. Like,
they're rotting out, man. Of course.
What planet are you from? Like windows need to open and close, right? So you just start, kind of getting through there. It does obviously help if you've got some sort of personal validation, right? The realtor or people in the investor group is like, hey, these guys have done a really good job for a lot of people in the city. They understand the game. They know what's needed, things of that nature. I personally, there have been cities where I control subs from a distance. Obviously, you just get way better pricing because the minute you get the guy in the middle that, is AKA like babysitting the whole project, he's going to make a killing on you. Versus, again, if you've got a really good realtor or a really good boots on the ground person that wants to learn and can make sure people are showing up and they've got a brain, you can teach them how to be the project manager, and that's their role.
Yep.
That's their role. You teach them, and that's their role, and that's how they're earning their money out of the deal. That's their role is, hey, I need you to babysit this. Make sure, I need you to go by 4 times a week. Even here in Denver with guys that I trust, guys that have worked with me for years, I still go to our houses 4 times a week, 5 times a week. And it's not a power and control thing. It's checking in with them, making sure they know to call if just an unforeseen comes up, like send a picture.
Things happen. You just never know.
And it's just checking in with people. And I'll tell you, guys who have a lot of pride in their work, they want to show you what they've done.
Yep.
They want to show you every little thing they've done. And you know what? You just have to go one by one with each guy in the house, and he's going to walk you through and show you what he's done because he's proud of his work. It's like an artist to some degree. And so you just have to respect the fact that the guy is proud of how he painted or how he did the plumbing or and you know what? You just roll with it. You just roll with it and respect the fact that he gives a shit.
Yep.
Because there's many people that don't.
Yep.
Right.
I'm 100% on board with that. You there. Anybody that contributes to a project that you're working on, you gotta give them props because they're doing work and just showing them that you appreciate what they've done and how they've contributed really just adds to the entire experience. So I love what you've given out so far. This is really good advice for everybody listening. Time is going way too fast. I'm going to ask a few quick questions, and then we're going to shift out of your bread and butter, how you're running your business. So real quick, I'm sure you use a ton of tools in your arsenal. What is the one software tool that you would use or that you'd suggest other people pick up in their own real estate game?
There's a few, and they go hand in hand, though, is you have to have a way to get leads.
Yep.
So I don't care if it's Facebook ads, but where are you zapping those into, right? You got to have some sort of, you're pulling lists from whether it's Kent Clothier or Batchley's. Wherever you're pulling your stuff from, you got to have some sort of software to do that. Then you got to have a software to somewhat skip trace or contact. Correct? Whether it's text blast, direct mail, retargeting, that doesn't matter what you're doing. You've got to have some sort of software there. And then obviously deal evaluation. I use my phone.
All right.
My comps come from the realtor, not from Zillow, not from Redfin. I'm very tight on my comps, right? And then I track every house on Microsoft Excel. I know there's tons of softwares out there and things of that nature, and it can budget this and it can estimate this and it can do that. For me, I use Excel. It's very simple. It's very black and white. It's easy to manage. And
I'm the same way. I mean, I've got tools, but my favorite is Excel. It's just
So I would say, get proficient. And there's so many tools out there.
Yep.
And they'll all give you, a free run and this and that. And you can sometimes just get overwhelmed by watching webinar after webinar, demo call after demo call. And then you don't really know like where to go. Like instead of just, again, doing the business, you're wasting your time, trying to have these perfect tools. Just grind a little bit, man. Pick up the phone, text, use your calculator. It's not legal. Right.
The second person on the show I've asked, the tool, and they said, no, just pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the tools. Just pick up the phone. Just keep going for it.
Yeah, hustle.
I like that. So now we're going to fully shift away from, kind of how you're running your business. And I kind of want to hear a little bit more about your experiences and your stories. So you've been doing this for over 20 years. What has been basically the hardest thing that you've experienced so far in real estate, getting started? What's the biggest obstacle that you've had to overcome?
I would say there's two things. Learning how to trust other people that are many miles away, and just realizing that there are good people out there that want to do a good job and they won't steal from you and things of that nature. But but then there's the flip side of that, right? There's definitely guys that won't do a good job and that will steal from you. So just kind of learning the trust process in that, and who can you trust in this process. Probably one of the biggest difficult things I ever had was we were doing a condo conversion. It was a very, very old, like 1870s building, historic district.
Wow.
It was a maternity hospital at one point, and I had done just under about 50 remodels with the contractor, and we were now jumping into something a lot bigger, lot bigger. And I was like, no, this guy's good, man. I mean, we've got a good track record, good relationship. We worked well together. And he included his brother-in-law, and his brother-in-law was not of the same ethics or integrity. We ended up in a 2.5-year lawsuit. That's 2.5-year lawsuit. Nobody wins, man. Nobody.
Drains your energy, drains everything.
Oh, God. I mean, just money, depositions, court.
Yep.
I mean, it was 2.5 years. So there again, I had met the brother-in-law one time and never had a good vibe from him. Just kind of that gut sense, street smart thing. And I had no idea the brother-in-law was going to be involved, or I probably would have, my red flag radar would have gone up and been like, well, why is he involved? I don't really like him.
Yep.
He doesn't give me a good vibe, but didn't find out until way too late in the project that guy was going to be kind of instrumental in managing the money.
Gotcha. So the lesson there is
mismanage the money. Right.
Yeah. So the lesson there is trust yourself and learn who to trust in the transaction.
Correct.
I like it. It's kind of on the flip side of that. What has been either the individual project or just kind of like the stretch of projects? What's been the most enjoyable part about real estate, about being in real estate, doing flips, all that stuff?
So we've done a lot of houses across the country in lower income cities, lower demographic areas, parts of town. And that's beyond the rental. That's actually like fix and flip, where, people might be buying a house for $60,000, or in Denver, like the one I'm listing tomorrow is $275,000, and that's entry level. Does that make sense? And it's just delivering still a good home, where it's done right. And we still put granite, and we still put stainless, and we still make it look super sexy. Like, just like we do the $500,000 flip. There's no difference in the quality of work or the look, no matter what the price point. And, you know, people will be like, you're nuts, man. Why do you do all
that? That's great.
And I'm just like, I mean, they're humans, right? They have kids. They have, their neighborhood may suck. It may be very unsafe. It may be highly traumatic, right? But when they get home, they know they've got a beautiful home, kind of thing. And I think that's probably some of the most rewarding stuff. And we do that quite often. It's as weird as it sounds. It's a price point that we have been very successful at in those neighborhoods. And it works for us. It works for us. You know, there's challenges that come with remodeling a house in those neighborhoods too. But, you know, again, it works for us. And I think when you see someone who buys that house who's worked so hard, and this even translates to my realtor world. When you see someone who's worked so hard, whether they have to use down payment assistance or not, or you have to negotiate closing costs, but they've just, like, they never believed they would own a home in America. Whether they were American, whether they were from another country, it doesn't really make a difference. But, like, this is like their ultimate goal, their ultimate dream, their ultimate sense of accomplishment is them buying a home in America. When you see the look on their faces of them doing that, like, that's powerful, man. It's powerful. Whether I was the realtor or whether I was the flipper, you know, it's a powerful feeling to know that you're like, wow, this might be this family's greatest accomplishment at this time. You know, where to people who have, you know, more income, better jobs, more education, better family, whatever the case is, buying a home is just kind of a normal thing.
Right.
It's still exciting, but, you know, it's exciting to buy a home, but there's nothing special to buying a home.
Right. It's just something that happens.
Right. Your daddy gave you the down payment.
It's monumental.
Right. So very, very different. So I would say that's probably the most powerful thing. And I think that's why, you know, even as a realtor and investor, I still love those neighborhoods. Still love those neighborhoods. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I being able to deliver a product that you're proud of to people who really appreciate it. That's there really isn't anything better than that. So I am with you on there. All right, so now we're going to shift one more time, shift gears, and we're going to kind of talk a little bit about your performance coaching side of things. I want to know what habit contributes. I mean, I'm sure you say you do a coaching group. So, what habit contributes the most to your success and to the success of your clients and your pupils?
Got it. So, 2012, when I was on the road, I started in 2010. And I would open up every workshop with what I considered my own curriculum, right? Which was, I didn't have it labeled as my own curriculum, which is now a formula for a balanced life. But I just had things just through my own path, mentors, things I read, speakers I heard, and I kind of put my own day one, hour one presentation together that would set the stage for what was going to be the next 3 days. And as you know, it's all about mindset and life and putting things into perspective. But, you know, it wasn't your AKA typical vision board and put $1 million mansion in a Bugatti and like $20 million yacht. And I'm like, oh my Lord, that's overwhelming to most people, right? So what I did is I taught it for 2 years straight, and the feedback was great. And people was like, why don't you do something with this? And I was like, do what? And they were like do something, like create something out of it, like make it its own product. And, you know, there were people that would come to these classes, you know, that, you know, PhDs, physicians, attorneys, you know, I mean, very, you know, highly educated people. And they were like, come on, Al, like, do something with this. This is a very unique spin on this stuff. And we've been to a lot of presentations. So 2012, basically, I decided I was just going to write a book. So I wrote the book, Formula for a Balanced Life. It's a very easy read. More than happy to give it to your readers for free as an ebook too.
Appreciate it.
And it's a very simple read about how do you balance money, time, health, fun, protection, giving back, enhancement, support, and why. And how do you get those to work synergistically in your life? And how do you scale to getting those to function synergistically in your life? So wrote the book because everyone would be like, I don't quite understand how you do everything you do. You know, because I have kids, I coach at a high school, I coached, you know, I have my own gym with fighters, you know, things of that nature. Like, how, dude, where? Like, do you ever sleep?
Too
That's
much
what
for
people
one
would
man.
tell me. Do you ever? Right. And I was like, no, I just work very efficiently, very fast. And I don't take a lot of time to make a decision or move forward. So anyway, long story short, kept teaching as I was speaking. And then kind of ran into some coaches, like high level executive coaches that was like, hey, have you ever tried to monetize you? And I was like, not really. And they were like, you should. You have a very unique background. You should. But every coach I was working with took me back to real estate coaching. It's what you're good at, real estate coaching. I was like, but there's a billion guys that do real estate coaching, right? And and they're all good, right? And some are super expensive, some are super cheap, right? That kind of stuff. And I was like, but I think my passion falls around like my book and just creating elite performance within others. So finally found a guy that kind of took my very convoluted brain and started making me streamline some stuff of where I wanted to go. So hence, I'm in a PhD program for performance psychology. I've now created a workbook from my book, an actual structured workbook. And then, so for example, I'm running a 5-week group coaching right now. And what I did is I took the 9 principles, created the workbook, broke it up over 5-week sessions. And that's what I'm going through in detail with people. And then, we do a one-on-one consultation at the end. So, because there's things that are private to people that they might not want to share on a Zoom. But when we're done, there's things that they want to kind of expand on, or maybe where the focus is. And it's people from all walks of life that are in this, in this group. So, and then I've done individual coaching on the same thing, because really your whole world breaks down into one of those 9 pillars, correct? Money, time, health, fun, protection, giving back, enhancement, support, why. The whole world, your whole life falls into one of those 9 pillars. And so it's figuring out, okay, where do you need the most help or assistance? Correct. And I'm a very, I'm trying to brand myself as per se an inspirational personality. Like I'm a good big picture guy on stage that can just kind of build belief and sincerity, because I don't feel like I'm anything special, per se. Correct. And that's what I really, really enjoy doing, because, people are like, well, what are you going to do when you have a PhD? You have more experience than a lot of guys that have a PhD, even at coaching and speaking. But, when I kind of started, looking at like Eric Thomas's life, and it just opens doors. It opens doors that I don't even know exist yet. Correct. I mean, I don't know the doors until I finish.
Having those little letters, I mean, it doesn't seem like a lot, but it makes a difference. People, I mean, for one, you did put the time in, you learned the necessary curriculum. So that's great.
Yeah. And I think I think it's a little different too. Like, a lot of people that get PhDs, they do a undergrad, they go master's, they go PhD right away, but they don't have any sort of life experience. It's all research based on articles, and you shadowed somebody for 4 hours and
kind of detached from reality.
Right. I did my undergrad. I worked for probably like 7-8 years, and I did my master's degree. Right. And I finished my master's in 2001, and now I'm back into education again. So it's all those life experiences, all my different businesses, my successes, my failures. That's what convolutes, like when they say, research about performance psychology. I can be my own research. Does that make sense? Like,
so going back to it, what is the one like very, very concrete habit that you would suggest other people implement in their own lives to see, that leap in performance that they'd like to see?
Yeah, got it. And I apologize for not answering that.
No worries.
Quit making excuses.
Quit making excuses. That's good. I like that, because that really is what prevents most people from actually taking action. Is something pops up in their brain and they're like, man, but maybe I shouldn't be doing this because this, because of this reason, that reason, whatever.
I don't have time. It's too expensive. Oh my God, how am I going to learn that? Oh my God, there's probably tons of people that failed. Oh my God. Oh, those are all just get out of your way. Get out of your own way.
Yep.
Get out of your own way.
That's
So,
good. I like it. Unfortunately, we are at the end of our time here. You have a ton of good knowledge that you've been sharing with us. So I wish we could have you on longer. Maybe we'll have you back in the future. But until then, how can listeners and viewers get in contact with you? And in the world of real estate, what is it that you can share and that you would like people to bring for you?
Yep. So getting in contact with me, I have a website, alphilipneri.com. My email is alphilipneri@gmail.com. So nothing complicated.
In the show notes for everybody.
Yep. But one of probably the easiest ways is if they just follow me on Facebook. I have an Al Philip Neri performance coaching page, and I do a lot of videos. They can comment, they can download the book. And then once they come into that world, I'll connect them to my Philip Neri real estate group page, my team hybrid page. So from that page, we'll link them up into the real estate pages. But then, I do a lot of videos and things of that nature. And they can contact me, if they're inquisitive about coaching or anything, they can definitely ask things of that nature. I think the final question was what would I want people, like, what would I want your audience to contribute to me, kind of thing?
Mm-hmm.
Is that
if somebody like, what kind of deals that you're looking for that people can bring to you, anything like that?
So, I mean, in Denver, we're always looking for good fix and flips with real numbers, a real ARV and a real rehab and things of that nature. So we're always looking for that. I've in the last month or so, I've spent a lot of mental energy on just basically leveraging the use of seller financing for cash flowing properties. So, if anybody, there's a lot of sellers that are they're freaking out. They don't know if they should sell. Maybe it doesn't make sense for them to sell. They kind of, they like the payments, things of that nature. I would, welcome the opportunity to look at anything in the world of seller financing, because they just don't want the responsibility, because they have no idea what's going to happen with coronavirus. Our interest rate's going to be 99%. His value is going to drop, and they're like, but at least if I'm on the hook, then that's my problem, right? It's not their problem anymore. It's my problem. So I know there's a lot of people in the country, that are, maybe they were mom and pop style landlords, and they were landlords by default because they got married and it wasn't the right time to sell, the other half's house and things of that nature. And they're like, oh my God. And then of course, when renters were told you don't really have to pay if you're in struggle because you can't be evicted, all of a sudden they're like, what do you mean? I was only making $10 a month. How's the mortgage going to get paid? Things of that nature. Again, would love the opportunity to, look at anything like that, where it's minimal money out of our pocket, but we can remove the headache, leverage them for the seller financing, protect them, reestablish with the tenant, things of that nature. I personally think there's actually a huge market for that right now. I think there's a huge market for that right now. And because what that mom and pa wants is they just need to be mentally free. It's not really even about the money. They just need to be mentally free from
stress.
That. Correct. So let us mentally free you, and we'll take on the headache, or the potential headache, or whatever. Right? Yeah. Either one of those would be absolutely great right now.
Okay. Well, Al, again, thank you very much for coming on the show. I'm sure I can speak for everybody listening and watching that we appreciate the knowledge that you shared with us. And for anybody who wants to get in contact with Al, go to alphilipneri.com or his Facebook page. Other than that, thank you guys for watching, and until the next time. Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Real Estate Investing Club. For more information on how to work with the host, Gabe Peterson, go to www.realestateinvestingclub.com. Otherwise, we will see you guys in the next episode. All right, before I officially sign off, I have a quick announcement to make. If you're interested in becoming a passive investor in one of my deals, my own company, Kaizen Properties, is looking for capital partners for our upcoming projects.
We invest in what are known as recession-resistant assets, mainly self-storage facilities, mobile home and RV parks, and industrial properties. If you're interested in investing and would like to learn a little bit more about my company, our investing criteria, and some of the previous projects we've done, go to the Real Estate Investing Club podcast at therealestateinvestingclub.com and scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page. Click on the Invest With Us button. That'll pop up the investor form. Fill that out, and we will reach back out to you as soon as we can. Or if you prefer a little bit more of a personal touch, you can reach out to me at gabe@therealestateinvestingclub.com. So really, that is it. Again, it was a pleasure hanging out with you guys during this episode, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.